This
here.
conference will now be recorded.
I'm going to do an opening statement and then we'll get into the call to order. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Elsmere, June 11th, 2020 meeting of the Mayor and Council. It is now slightly past 5 p.m. and the meeting is being held virtually using GoToMeeting video conferencing with a teleconference option. For those attending the meeting using the video conferencing option on computer or tablet, we ask you to please mute your microphones using the microphone button on the top right or bottom middle of your video screen. For those attending using the GoToMeeting app on your smartphone, please ensure that you have entered your name as well as mute your microphone using the microphone button on the top right of your screen. For those attending by calling in using a cell phone, please mute your phone using your cell phone standard mute button. For those attending using a traditional telephone, please press *6 to mute your telephone. There will be time permitted for public comment where attendees will be permitted to unmute their phones. We ask that you please wait for the appropriate time and then identify yourself by name and address prior to speaking. In addition, if you're using the mobile app or using the web conference, there's a chat function where questions may be submitted in writing and will be monitored by staff and addressed by the Mayor and Council during the meeting. At this time, we'll call to order the June 11th, 2020 meeting of Council. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence for those who wish to do so. Councilman Hurst, if you could do roll call, please.
First District.
Present.
Second District.
Present.
Third.
Present.
Fourth District.
Here.
Here. Fifth
Present.
District. Sixth District is present. Mayor.
Present.
Town Solicitor.
Present.
Police Chief.
Here.
And Town Manager.
Here, sir.
All right. Do we have any public comment?
Mr. Mayor, I have one, if I could. Just for the record, this is a combined meeting of the Mayor and Council as well as the Finance Committee. And they should be on the roll call too. Brian, I apologize. Ms. Stevie Keeley, Mr. Ron Russo, and Paul Chilton should be in the roll call.
Okay, do you want me to say each person's name?
I believe you, sir.
Okay, Stevie Keeley.
Here.
Okay, Ronald Russo. Ronald Russo. Ron Russo. Paul Chalfant. Did anyone hear anyone or no?
My
No.
only Stevie Keeley acknowledged that she was here.
Yes. Yes.
And I do not see Ron Russo or Paul Chalfant on the attendees list either as joining.
I have a question. Is there anything with regard to Finance Committee if they don't have a quorum to meet with us?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I'm going to look that up, Councilwoman Persani, while we're on. My instinct is that as long as we have a recommendation from Finance, that you as the town council ultimately approve the budget. So unless there's something in there that requires them to be participants, or excuse me, requires them to officially be part of this meeting, it's my inclination to recommend to you to proceed based upon their recommendation. But I'll get back to you while we're progressing. I will look at your charter.
Is there any public comment? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the May 14th, 2020 council meeting.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the May 14th, 2020 council meeting.
I'll second it.
All right, motion made by Councilman Hurst and seconded by Councilman McEwen. Any discussion? There being none, we'll do a vote by roll call. First district,
Approved.
second,
Approved.
third,
Yes.
fourth,
Approved.
fifth,
Yes.
sixth.
Yes.
Mayor, yes. So the minutes of the May 14, 2020 council meeting are approved. There is no old business, so we'll move on to item number 1 of new business. Consideration of appointing the following residents as members of the Planning Commission. If appointed, their terms will expire, and we'll do them in one lump sum. Mr. John Drumchuk, whose term would expire June 1st, 2023. Mr. Scott Shelton, whose term would expire June 1st, 2023. And Mr. John Pockets, whose term would expire June 1st, 2021.
I would like to make the motion that we appoint the 3 residents, Mr. John Drumchuk, Mr. Scott Shelton, and Mr. John Pockets, with all terms expiring June 1st, 2021.
I'll
To the
second.
Planning Commission.
Actually, the terms for Mr. Drumchuk and Mr. Shelton would expire June 1st, 2023. I think.
Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. The last one, Mr. Pockets, was 2021. So,
Any
as it's written,
discussion?
I would like to.
Any discussion? Art? Yes, motion by Councilman Hurst, seconded by Councilwoman Persani, I believe. Okay. Are any of the candidates present like to say anything? All right, hearing nothing, we'll do vote by roll call. First district,
Yes.
second,
Yes.
third,
Yeah.
fourth, fifth,
Yes.
sixth,
Yes.
and Councilman McEwen verbalized yes, but we couldn't hear him, but we could read it.
Here's Councilman McEwen. I said yes.
Mayor, yes. All right, they are so appointed to the Planning Commission. Move on to item number 2, consideration of appointing Ms. Shirley Posey to the Town Board of Elections. If appointed, her term would expire on June 1st, 2021.
I would like to make the motion to appoint Ms. Shirley Posey to the Town Board of Election with a term that will expire on June 1st, 2021.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Persani, seconded by Councilman Hurst. Any discussion? Oh, somebody needs to mute their phone. All right, there being none, we'll do vote by roll. First district,
Yes.
second,
Yes.
third,
Yes.
fourth,
Yes.
fifth,
Yes.
sixth.
Yes.
Mayor, yes. Ms. Posey is so appointed to the Board of Elections. Item number 3, consideration of request from the town manager to transfer $92,568 from long-term planning future project allocation to the general fund.
Mayor and Council, this was funds that was received last fiscal year that at the time we had no project for, so we put into the long-term planning budget to decide what to do with it later. Unfortunately, it's become necessary to use it this year to help balance the budget. What I'm asking you to do is transfer the $92,568 from long-term planning into the general fund. And then as part of the budget, the general fund will assign that $92,568 to different line items to help balance the budget. It's a significant thing was there was a $148,000 increase in the garbage contract this year. So.
All right. I'll make the motion to transfer the $92,568 from long-term planning future project allocation to the general fund.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Mayor, seconded by Councilwoman Skipsky. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, we'll do vote by roll. First district,
Yes.
second district,
Yes.
third district,
Yes.
fourth district,
Yes.
fifth district,
Yes.
sixth district.
Yes.
Mayor, yes, the money is so transferred. At this point, why don't we go ahead and do the departmental reports, and then we'll come back to what is going to be the lion's share of this meeting, and that is the budget, which are items 4, 5, and 6. My understanding, Mr. Russo from the Finance Committee has joined the meeting.
Yes, I've been trying to use my phone and for some reason I couldn't access it. So I came upstairs and I just got on the computer.
That's okay, welcome. All right, so we'll start with the code department.
Mayor and Council, the code department during the month has issued 53 citations in the month of May. 36 of those were corrected with the initial warning. 14 ended up receiving fines and 3 remained pending at the end of the month. 5 properties during the month were deemed to be public nuisances and have received fines for that violation. The department has requested the Public Works Department abate 4 separate properties throughout the town. The town permit revenue was down significantly for this month. And that's because May was a free permit month for selected outdoor repairs. And that's all I have for code.
Any questions for code? There being none, we'll move on to finance.
Finance, I'll do an overview, but the director is certainly here as well as his assistant. If you have other questions, in general, the department received $34,685.22 in transfer taxes for the month of May. This puts us at $20,000 over what we budgeted to bring in this year from transfer taxes, and we still have the month of June to collect for. We've completed all the necessary security measures with the bank and believe that all of our accounts are now secure. We anticipate that we will end the year with a $28,000 surplus. In other words, the expenses will be $28,000 less than the income. So we should have $28,000 to the good at the end of the year. Now that's depending on how the auditors will apply different things, but just down and dirty, that's the number. And as I said, the finance director is here. Is there any questions?
Any questions, finance? There being none, we'll move on to public safety.
Hello. I have good news. We were able to fill our 12th slot for a police officer. His name is Josh Rosa. He's from Elsmere. He is a volunteer at the Elsmere Fire Company. He's a constable right now at the hospital. He's 24 years old, and he will begin the academy on June 22nd, which he will be going to the Newcastle County Academy. So he's a local boy, so he's a local young man, sorry. So I think he'll be a great asset to our department.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Any questions for public safety? All right, there being none, we'll move on to public works.
Sure, for the month, first of all, the Public Works Director is here. For the month, they patched 34 potholes. The street sweeper was run in District 4 in compliance with the NTDS permit. The department completed 4 abatements at the request of code enforcement. The dumpsters at Balone. Sorry, is there a question? The dumpsters at Balone Park have been removed due to the continuous excessive dumping that had been occurring there. Dumping at Balone Park since they were removed, and we're looking for the next hiding spot wherever they're going to dump it in the town. The portable toilets in Balone Park and Fairgrounds Park were also removed due to the cleaning requirements under the COVID-19 guidelines and the fact that the parks are closed. The cleaning requirements essentially require those to be cleaned every 2 hours. We weren't accomplishing that, so in order to be compliant, we had the dumpsters removed. And that is all I have for the Public Works Department.
Any questions for public works?
John, this is Robert Kaczmarski. Have you guys checked into the section of Linden Avenue yet that had sunken between 108 and 109?
We did. We have a bid back from Paoli Services for what's needed there.
Was that because of the utilities that was done, and did they screw up, do you think, or?
Everybody's unwilling to say at this point is what it was. So the next step is going to be sending the engineers out to look at it and having them, to give us their professional opinion. So somebody did something there.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for public works?
I would like to make a statement that I sent an email to Mr. Giles about the Public Works, and they are the most visible people in our whole entire town, and the town has been looking great. So I just want to say good job.
And sir, that email was passed on to all the employees of Public Works. They all received that, and we discussed it at the weekly meeting of Public Works.
Thank you.
You gave them kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of mess in Balone there for a little while. Looks good. Anything else for public works? All right, there being nothing, we'll move on to town manager.
Let me follow up with Public Works for 1 second, and it's with Councilman Hurst. I know you were very
Yes, sir.
proud of what they did at the basketball courts down there at Junction. I have received 3 or 4 complaints now from residents who want it taken down and barred up and never opened again. I'm dealing with them, talking with them about it. I asked them to contact you. They didn't like the way I was handling it. They chose not to. So we are working with it. We'll probably put the gate back up there at the park and lock the gate. The people who were complaining have volunteered to lock and unlock the gate each day and each morning.
Okay,
So,
I haven't heard from any residents, just so you are aware.
yeah, there's 3 of them, and they were right along the park. One wants to raise her fence to a 12-foot fence, stockade fence. I told her she has to go before the planning commission or board of adjustments for a variance if that's what she wants. Another one just doesn't want to hear anything. She wants the park locked up and become, I don't know, bird sanctuary or something. She doesn't want the kids in there. And I've contacted the chief about the fact that they want more patrols down there at night for kids urinating and so forth in the park. So
That's the first I've ever heard of that part, so that's great.
yeah, it's relatively minor at this point. We are handling it, but if you hear that, you know, they're not getting quick enough response, we are responding to them. They may just not like the response. Town manager report, sir. We still have 2 vacancies on the pension committee and 1 vacancy on the land bank. I'd like to get council's consent to start the process of canceling the Elsmere Police Pension Plan, secondary pension plan, as well as the town of Elsmere's employee retirement plan. First of all, the employee retirement plan has been used by 1 employee in the entire time it's been in existence. That was only for a year, and that employee has left. There's no interest I can see in anybody partaking in that plan. So I don't think we should be incurring fees for people to watch over that stuff. The movement or the request to cancel the secondary Elsmere Police Pension Plan would have all the officers day 1 go into the state plan. This year that would cost to bring everybody that's down there now into the state plan and $18,000, which has been put into the budget for this year as anticipated happening. So it's funded for this year. And then, of course, we pay the actuarial every year that the state comes up with. But I think that puts us down to 2 pension funds. One is the state is solely responsible for. And the second one is the original police pension plan that we've had around forever that we just got to find $2 million for. So that shouldn't be too hard, huh? But I'd like to have council's consent to start drawing the paperwork up and contacting the people about canceling those 2 plans. Or know if there's any objection to canceling those plans. Is there anyone that has an objection to it?
My only question is, you said it was going to be $18,000 to put all the officers in there. What was the cost to keep what we have right now? Is it less, more, the same?
It's less. We pay 16% of the officer's salary to put them in the state plan. And I forget what we were matching for. And we were paying 7.5% of their salary to keep them in the secondary police pension plan. Remember, when they get hired right now, they're in the secondary plan for only 5 years, and then they're transferred over to the state plan. So this just moves them day 1 instead of 5 years later.
And it's a small increase that we will be paying to move them straight into the state fund, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. And I think it's a hiring issue that the chief may help the chief attract employees with in the future and so forth, and put them on par with all the other departments in the state as them going into the pension plan, state pension plan on day 1.
Okay.
Well, that makes
And it still will get our money back if they leave because they're signing a 5-year training
I
agreement.
can't hear you. 6,000.
And we changed that training agreement from the 1 to 3 years is 100%. The 4th year is 75%. and the 5th year is 50%. So if they leave, we're at least recouping some of our money that we put into that pension.
Also, the finance director has just advised me that this will cut out $6,000 a year the town pays in fees for those other plans to be operating. That'll be eliminated.
Is there any objection to that process starting, for the town manager to start that process? Do we need to do that by formal motion? I don't think.
I don't think you need a motion for me to start the process. Obviously, the actual action that makes it happen will be council approval. But I didn't want to do a lot of work and have no interest on council's part to do this.
I apologize. I have a child here that I had to go do something with first. I missed the last part of what was said, but is there any way we can discuss this at the July meeting? Because this is another big item. That's how I'm looking at it. And to, throw this on us at the budget meeting without any advance notice and numbers. I mean, I'm not totally opposed, but I want a little more discussion. And if we could have some time dedicated to it and have it be on the agenda for July.
Yeah, we can certainly put it on the July agenda, and it would take that long for anything to happen. But if you're okay with it, what I'll do is start getting the information of what is totally involved in it and have that ready for the July discussion.
Yes. I think we need to know what's involved with it before we say, that we're definitely in favor. So.
Yeah, that's all I was asking for. Okay, well, thank you. I'll move forward with getting the ins and outs of it worked out and issue some kind of report to you prior to the July meeting where it'll be on the agenda as an item.
Any questions for town manager? All right, that concludes the departmental reports. We had one other item before we move on to the budget, and that was a correspondence was received from former Mayor Dick Harold regarding the senior center that was addressed to council regarding some concerns about it leaving Elsmere and moving, and whether council, the town, had any ability to prevent that. I think we discussed that at the last meeting, that we don't. It's a private contract. It's a private entity. They can essentially do as they wish and have done so. But if anybody else wants to have a discussion about that.
Is Mr. Harold here? I know we sent him a notice telling him that it'd be discussed at tonight's meeting. Is he on the call anywhere? I guess not. My conversations with the director of the senior center is that they are leaving because they're looking for a better structured building. Matter of fact, I spoke with her today about this. She has no animosity towards the town. There's no bad feelings. They just did what they needed to do in compliance with the contract as far as getting out of it, giving us the month's notice. And like the mayor said, we don't really have any control. So.
Anybody have any questions, concerns? All right, there being none, we'll move on to item 4 of the agenda, which is the town manager will present to the mayor and council, as well as the finance committee, the fiscal year 2020, 2021 revenue, operating, and capital improvement budgets for review, comment, and approval.
Mr. Mayor and Councilman, I'm sorry, I'm getting the message. I'm getting some kind of feedback here, but I haven't done anything, so I don't know what's going on. Oh, I think it's you, Councilwoman Jensen, that may have a fan going or something. Let me first go over what the budget does. The budget, first of all, as presented to you, it's been in your box and everybody's had an opportunity to look at, is a balanced budget. The budget contains a $92,568 general fund commitment, which you just approved moving that money from long-term planning over to the general fund. The council will need to vote to transfer the funds from the long-term planning, which you've just done, to the general fund, and then vote to allocate those same funds from the general fund to balance the budget. This budget calls for the transition of all police officers to the state of Delaware pension plan. Currently, officers which are not certified and go to the academy are placed into a secondary police pension plan for 5 years before transitioning into the state of Delaware plan. This would eliminate the need for multiple plans and simplify the annual contribution calculations. The budget includes a salary increase for all employees under the approved wage compensation plan already in existence for the town. The budget creates a new department named Council Operations. This line item is the department to account for expenses which are directly attributed to the mayor and council and brings those expenses to into their own department. None of these line items are new expenses. They are just being accounted for in a new way. The budget addresses and compensates for a $145,391 increase in the annual trash contract. The budget addresses the loss of income from the senior center in the amount of $24,260 a year. The budget continues to fund the 5 core long-term planning items which were established in the fiscal year 12-13 year budget. The budget creates a new line item in the administration department for civil remedies. This line item is intended to cover expenses for remediations of large abatements that the town may need to complete on a residential property, such as large tree removal, when the property owner would sign a repayment contract for the remediation. In other words, when they can't afford to have it done, but it's a hazard, we would go in and pay for it. They would sign an agreement to repay us, and that would refund this or repopulate the funds in this account. The budget creates a new line item, administration department for pension expenses. These expenses are related to the Mass Mutual secondary police pension plan, the employee retirement plans, which have expenses that cannot be charged off to the pension. Well, Mass Mutual will actually come out of there if we eliminate the police secondary plan. But what this does is when the police plan, let's say they have the actuarial study or something like that, they do this and they run an expense, it gets charged to the town because the pension fund doesn't have the funds to meet it. So we pay it, and unfortunately, under the prior finance director, he paid it without approval and didn't go back and so forth and get the approvals and need to have it paid. So he was actually making more of a contribution to the pension every year than you were authorizing in the budget. So this will take into account those expenses that come up on a day-to-day operation of the pension plan that are relatively routine. The budget creates a new line for the finance department for banking services. These expenses represent the costs associated with the annual amount paid to the bank, including standard banking fees, fraud protection, and monitoring services. What the budget doesn't do. This budget does not include any funding for any events during the 2021 fiscal year. With a significant increase in the garbage contract and the unknown actions of the pandemic, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to hold any events anyway. So the idea was, okay, let's just cut them out for this year, apply that money to the garbage contract, and move on.
John, sorry to interrupt. John, sorry to interrupt. Does it also apply to the fireworks that were slated for October? So we'll get that refund or no?
I don't, right now, it's no, it's deposit, I say it's no, because it's deposit, but I'm going to work with them. They've worked with us before. I'm sure they'll carry it in. I'm hopeful they'll carry it into the next year for us.
All
I
right,
will have
thank you.
discussions with them. Okay, the budget eliminates funding for the new and future project allocation and long-term planning. This is where the money was, that the 92,000 we transferred. It eliminates that account, zeroes it out, so that account would be eliminated. And that's an overview of what the budget does and doesn't do. And we're standing ready to answer any questions that you may have.
So what I propose, so this is some orderly fashion to, we just start at tab 2 and move back. And if you have questions, did the green, red cards go out? So if you have a card, yeah, Councilman Hurst is holding them up. Or if you put your hand up, nod something, we'll try and figure out, make sure everyone gets recognized. So we'll start with tab 2, which is the revenue budget. Any questions, comments?
Question. John,
Sir.
are you confident on the projected number for the real estate transfer tax for next
No,
fiscal year?
No, I think we're actually, what we budgeted is below what we're going to bring in next year. As I stated earlier in the meeting, we got, this month puts us $20,000 over what was budgeted. And we still have June to bring in. So I think there's some wiggle room there, but I didn't want to take the budget down to the final penny. I wanted to have something reserved. I figured if it came in, then we have it. A bunch of things will probably pop up during the year where we could use that additional money. So the answer to your question, though, is no. I think that this is an underestimate of what the transfer tax will be.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at, if you could refresh our memories on this, the code violations. We know at some point a percentage of them becomes a tax lien. When do they leave that line item? Because I see, for example, we have a code violations, 20,000 year to date, 1750. Is it because those other funds were moved over to the special liens?
Exactly. Once a fine goes out, or a summons is issued, a fine is issued, the person doesn't respond to that, we go out and abate it. After we abate that, then a certain amount of time, I think it's like 7 days, no more than 7 days. We discussed it at the last council, or last budget hearing. It automatically moves over to a special tax lien in the finance department. They process that within a matter of days, and it becomes a lien. I'm sorry. 30 days from the date of the invoice of the violation is moved. So within 30 days, that money's moved over, and the code department unfortunately doesn't see that income after that point. So if it gets paid, it doesn't come back to the code office as a fine. It gets put in special tax revenue. So it's a little deceiving when they look like they're short in their fines and they're actually not.
Thank you. I thought we needed to hear that again, because I was just, at first I was a little confused when I was doing the budget. Then I thought, oh no, wait a minute, this is special tax liens that comes into play here. The other
Yes.
question I have is if you could tell us why the reduction in the franchise fees?
The franchise fee, they were, let me find out on administrative, I think we explained them in administrations. I don't want to tell you something that's not accurate. Is it under finance? Okay, Code, Finance Department. And page what? 66? 56. Page 56 of your budget presentation.
Oh, it's over there.
Right, franchise fees, the funds generated in this line represent the percentage of the fees collected by the Comcast and Verizon for cable TV service in the town as well as Crown Castle. The amount budgeted more accurately reflects what we will be receiving this year. We make this adjustment based on, especially with the revenues. If we don't make the revenues, we don't want to go into the next year with an inflated number. So as you know, a lot of times we'll take what we anticipate we're going to bring in and we won't go over that. So that's the case here. We brought in year to date on that, Steve. 95,884 is our year to date. There'll probably be some staggering money coming in, but it won't be 118. So that's why we knocked it down to the 100.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I
right.
have for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, issues for tab 2, the revenue budget? All right, hearing none, we'll go to tab 3 for the administration department. Any questions, concerns, comments? Okay.
I'll start if.
Okay.
Let's see. We still didn't get any final numbers with regard to business insurance?
Business insurance, that's a known number, is it not?
Yeah, because there's a big reduction. And
Yeah.
what?
I'm going to ask Steve to come on and tell you about that one, what the reason for that was. Go ahead, Steve.
You can just talk.
Good evening. The reduction is due to a reevaluation of the town's inventory. It's something that hasn't been done for the last 5 years. There was a lot of inventory that was disposed, and in the result, we sent in a new inventory list to our insurance broker to come up with a good replacement cost, and it allowed us to get a reduction. Further, we did an allocation that was more realistic to each department. So in previous years, administration would take the brunt of that cost. And so what we did was really take a look at what each department truly had to provide a more accurate accounting for the inventory in each department. Hence, that would affect the premium for each department as well.
Okay, thank you. And the one other question I have in this section is with regard again to workman's comp, because I know the last 2 years we had issues with workman's comp. So I was pretty surprised to see from last year that that amount wasn't accurately reflected in the budget.
Yeah, what happened last year was there was a lack of reporting funds related to the grants in the police department. So that was underreported when we did our estimate. So what we did this year is to make sure that we had an estimate of what the grant salaries would be so that we wouldn't have this big hit when they come in to do the audit.
Okay.
Yeah, so what happens,
that
Councilmember Sonic, they come out, we give them an estimate of what our salary is going to be for the year. What we did not do last year was give them the amount related to the grant salaries. So when the insurance company sent out their auditors, they said, hey, no, you didn't have $100,000 worth of salaries. You had $200,000 worth of salary. So now you have to pay for that additional $100,000.
Huh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, the problem.
Well, thank you. Those were.
The problems that we had last year with those line items were much more than we thought they were with the former finance director. Now that we've had some time to get into what's what.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Oh, no color cards. Okay. We'll move on to tab 4, Code Enforcement Department. And I do understand there are some overriding questions that are going to come up. I think that at least may encompass all of the departments, like salaries, things of that nature. But specifically with code enforcement under tab 4, any questions, comments? None? All right, tab 5, Finance Department. The rather large reduction in salary as a result of change of staff, I assume. Okay.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions, comments, otherwise for Finance Department, tab 5? No cards? No cards? All right. Tab 6. Oh, tab 6, the NPDES compliance. Any questions? Comments, concerns? I think when I looked at the hold on here, it's the budget as of May 30th. There's still a good amount left of that was budgeted last year.
There is, sir. That's a method we use quite often in not expending all the funds till we get to this part of the year where we're sure we made it through the year. We're going to approve probably $15,000 in storm drain repairs over the next couple of weeks. So that'll take that, what's remaining there down significantly. But again, it's don't spend the money till you're sure you're not going to need anything.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns for tab 6, the NPDES compliance? Okay. There being none, tab 7, Parks and Rec Department. And there was one question. Do we know if the Christmas parade is going to happen?
We know that unless the governor's order prohibits it, it's going to happen. We talked about that about when we were canceling the events and figured that for us, that's an overtime event is really what it is. And there's enough overtime in each individual budget to cover for us to participate in that event, as well as the tree lighting ceremony here at Town Hall the night before. So if anything goes off next year, it would probably just be those two, the tree lighting and the participation in the parade.
What's that? Councilwoman Jensen, did you have a comment?
A question on the events. I understand that you said about canceling the fireworks this fall in October, but this budget also goes around the new year and would not have the Easter event or the community yard sale or the town cleanup?
No, we would not have those under the current plan. Now, again, if everything gets lifted and council decides they want to do some of this stuff, we can figure out what the cost is and where it can come from and try to put it together then. It may take an allocation of some additional funds, but for this part, they would be canceled.
Okay, thank you.
Is everybody comfortable with the events? Because I know that's a big change and something that at least John and I have been talking about. It is a change. There's some uncertainty as to what's going to happen this fall for sure. Articles coming out are predicting we may see second wave, so there may not be an opportunity to have any events in the fall regardless. And I think mass gatherings, large gatherings, are going to be dependent upon there being a vaccine. And I read an article this morning that, optimistically they're talking about end of the year, beginning of the year, but they're more realistically, they're talking about spring or maybe a little later.
Oh.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I always love to see the community events, but yeah, I mean, I agree. We can't at this point count on anything until this pandemic is addressed somehow and that we can all be together safely. Although I hope that, as soon as we get a green light, that we can, at the very least in the spring, have the heavy pickup. Because if there's one thing that I've heard from residents is that, they were very disappointed that was canceled, but of course they understood. But it seemed like out of everything, that, and of course the Easter egg hunt, I heard from a couple families, and of course they understood about that as well. But definitely those two events, if there's any way possible we can get back on, I'd support that 100%. Thank you.
All right, anybody else on Parks and Rec? Tab 7? All right, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to tab 8, Public Safety. And I'll go ahead and kick it off with the big question that everybody's going to have, and that is the increase in the fund.
Revenue.
Budgeting and fund revenue, correct.
Yes. Well, as you all know, you took the steps to address the traffic fines and adopt the traffic code into Elsmere. And by doing that, we upped the fines from antiquated $25 speeding to the minimum fine being $75. And I was hoping that since COVID that we were going to be able to see the difference once this was adopted in March, that you would have saw some increase in March, April, and then May, being able to get out there and write summonses. Since the COVID, we stopped doing any proactive traffic enforcement from, I think it was like March 15th until May 1st. As of May 1st, I've been doing what we call their end shift logs. Any summonses that they issue is on their end shift. As long as it's a voluntary assessment, it'll tell me the fine figure. When I did that for the total of May, it was almost $24,000. I have here, Linda did it from July of 2019 to June, or I guess, yeah, until June 1st of 20.
We already have
our average fines from VAC that the officers wrote were like 10,000, 9,000, 8,000, 8,000, 8,000, 7,000. I can go on. But as of June, or for the month of May, we wrote $27,696. I think that's significant. It shows that with the new fine figures, we're getting more of the fine being brought in. When I did that and they're not writing more tickets, they're just, the tickets that they're writing have a more of a fine figure from anywhere, it's doubled from 25 to 50, but the majorities have tripled in their $75 base fine. When I look at that, I can just go back to Newport when we talked about, when I discussed this before, back in Newport, when we compared from July of 2018 to June of 2019, Newport wrote almost 3,000 tickets, but their fine that they brought in, their fine figure was $233,000. Where Elsmere, we wrote 4,325 summonses, and our VAC was only $114,000. We wrote almost double the amount and got, half the amount. So when I look at that, I think doing the 205, the VAC is very conservative. I've even looked at the officers writing tickets up until June 10th, and we've already, for the voluntary assessments, I've already written $10,000 worth of summonses for the fines. So this is definitely increased what we're bringing in. There's also, I'm going to approach Mayor and Council in August to discuss some inadequate fines that we're finding that we are writing that we did not address. I'll just give you some examples. Guys are out there writing yellow curbs. The fine figure is $11.50. This is not trying to change, this is not changing anyone's behavior when you're already getting a ticket for $11.50. Parking in the wrong direction is a $10 fine. I mean, these are from the 70s, these fines. Blocking a driveway is $10. Unsafe speed is $25. Failure to yield to an emergency vehicle is $25. These are just so outdated that I do want to come to Mayor and Council. I'm going to look at like what are the top, 20 violations that we enforce that affect Elsmere, and come to Mayor and Council about changing some of the fine figures like we have already. The one thing that we also, adopting this and changing things over, we found that no seatbelt, they had it in as $25. We addressed it as $50. So we did lose some revenue until we caught on that the right fine figure was not in there. But that has been addressed and has been corrected. I hope I explained it that everyone could understand.
I have a question.
Yes.
Flashing my board.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even say.
That's okay. My question is, you mentioned about parking in the wrong direction, those tickets only being like $10. I wasn't even sure that the officers actually ticketed for that anymore. Do they unless they get called about it?
Wrong direction, if someone complains, we actually write it. Now the yellow curb, we are more self-initiating on that one. Because, we try and be a community policing, that we're not always going out there and trying to hit the resident for parking in the wrong direction. But we do have people who call and complain, and we'll write it.
Okay. I get that, and I think some people don't even realize that they're supposed to park on the right side of the road, especially young people that But it wouldn't hurt maybe to give them a warning so that they know, because I think it makes the neighborhoods look sloppy when the cars are all parked every which way. But I figured you guys have more things to do than ride around and ticket cars going in the wrong direction, especially now,
well,
like you said.
Yeah.
But
well,
they could give them a warning and then they know better.
Right. And we have. This one person that complains constantly will call us, and we go down there, and that district officer is the one who issues them because he has given warnings.
Any other cards? Anybody else have questions for public safety?
No, I just, if I may, I just want to chime in with my concern as well regarding the fines. I don't think there's ever been 1 year, and that's even going back before former Chief Strauss and everything, that we've ever made that amount that was budgeted. So that's why my concerns still linger. And if former Councilman Jeromchuk is listening in, I'd like to hear his thoughts about that, because I know on past councils, we've had many discussions about the need to have that number assessed a little more accurately. Now, understanding this year is going to be a little bit different because fines have increased, but, you know, so I'm willing to give that, you know, okay, let's see if we can do that. But after this, we would have to really make sure that, in my opinion, that we're budgeting very accurately on it. Now, year to date, at the end of May, 83,000 was brought in. So,
Right.
you know, so that's what.
Well, it's actually,
if we were,
I'm sorry, it's actually, and when I looked at the whole thing, it's 92,000, almost 500.
And we brought in 0.
Yeah, and we had COVID for 6 weeks, so.
and we could have it again for much longer too.
Absolutely,
So,
and we've been down an officer for 6 months. It's a lot of variables. But
I
again,
know.
I'm saying that we're not writing any more tickets than really what we have done in the past. But you can see the fine figure has almost tripled. If you're going from 10,000 to 27,000, it's tripled.
No, I understand that. It's just that if we actually make this budget, we're going to have a party, because I've never seen it happen. I cannot recall 1 year where it's ever happened. And I know we've had discussions about this before, but hey, okay, let's see what happens. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it again next year.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I will add is that we haven't had police prosecution since March.
Right.
And a lot of those are on hold, so it will come in this budget year. So that will help too. And I really, when I looked at it, I really thought I was conservative for the 205. Now, I can show you what we write, what people pay. We all know with the judicial reform, there's no consequences if you don't pay until you want to go and renew your license in 5 years. So, I mean, you know, but I can show you what we're doing, and I can show you what the fine are bringing in. But if someone's not paying it, that's out of my control.
Right. Understood. But that is a variable that I believe has to be considered when setting the budget, that there's going to be a certain percentage that's not going to get paid. So let's not project that we're going to get 100% payment on everything. But,
No,
you know, like I said, you know, we'll see how this increase.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what this does with the increase in fees. And, you know, like I said, I'm sure we'll be talking about it again next year.
Okay.
If I'm still here. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a comment if I can. Is that good?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, my comment is I've been part of the budgets that have actually made the fines and parts that haven't. But the police fine issue, this is it. This year is it. They either need to make these fines this year or suffer the consequences next year in making up for the actual loss, what they didn't bring in their budget cuts. Because we don't have it to cut here. We're going to go into next year looking for $150,000 plus for the garbage contract. We're already behind the 8 ball for next year. And if we're going to project fines like this, then the police department needs to bring it in regardless of the reasons. It needs to happen.
I'll add one thing on there. Sorry, Chief, I'll give you just.
No.
This is budgeted in my view, because there are consequences to violations of laws, and part of that is a monetary fine. It's not to go out and just write tickets solely so we can balance a budget. It is a consequence of people's actions that result in money that the town can then use for the betterment of the residents here, but not to go write tickets just so we can get a revenue stream, which I don't believe you do. My 2 cents.
No, and again, that's what I said is we're not writing any more tickets, but hopefully with this new fine increase, that it will hit people a little bit harder and they'll think twice. But again, we're writing them, whether they pay them, that is something that is well out of my control. I can show you what we've done, and then it's up to the person to pay it. And I said I only did the 205. When I really looked at it, it could have been much higher. I think I was being conservative.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion for public safety?
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Drumchuck?
Yeah, since my name was brought up, I think I'll interject if you don't mind. It's true that in previous years the public safety department has had difficulty hitting their budgeted amount. However, when I looked at the amount of tickets that were issued in the past, and I looked at the amount that is projected to come in, I think the chief has lowballed this figure, because I come up with a figure of well over 300,000. So that's all I got to say about that.
Any other
And the great
discussion for Councilman Crisani?
I just said, and the great one has spoken.
Any other discussion for public safety, tab 8? All right, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move to tab 9, Public Works Department. Questions, comments? Anything, Diana? No. Okay. Move to tab 10, Public Works, Sanitation. Essentially the trash contract. Any discussion other than what we had coming, approving the trash contract, accepting it? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Tab 11, Council Operations Budget, which is the new one to cover council expenses. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, seeing none, move to tab 12, Long-Term Planning. There were no vehicles in this. Any questions, any comments?
Yes, I have a question. This is the last minute thing that's been occurring. This is towards the chief. And what happened yesterday's press conference with McGinnis. What is the likely chance that we will be implementing body cameras within this fiscal year, this new fiscal year?
She stepped away for 1 second. She'll be right back.
Hello, Councilman, sorry.
No,
This
based on,
is, Linda just told me what it was. Right now, I've been in numerous Zoom meetings with other executives and law enforcement, and it seems like that the state is going to talk about funding this because of departments my size, even smaller, even larger. Right now, the Delaware State Police don't have the money to have body cams. And the body cams aren't as expensive as it is the cloud and the redaction. And talking about the Attorney General's office hiring people to redact the footage. So that's where we are right now. We're all willing to go to that, but it has to be something that has to be funded by the state. Because right now we have one report system that the state felt that was very important that we went to. We have one radio system that the state pays for. So this is funding that we're saying as a group that yes, we want body cams, but we're going to need the state to pay for it. And I think with the momentum that's going on in the country, that I think that they're going to come up with the money to do that. Now, I might be a little naive, but we all believe that. So
you feel that we should prepare just in case?
I don't even know what you would prepare for. I mean, it's
Set aside some funds right now, maybe.
well, I mean, we get grants. I could always put in for grants, but I wouldn't even be able to tell you where to start with how much money to put in. And then this is, you know, I hate to say like it's a knee-jerk reaction right now that, you know, with the body cams, because we have cameras in our cars, and then we're going to have to make sure, you know, what company you go with, what cloud system I mean, this is just something that has to be worked out because we want to get the best bang for our buck. And even our officers now know that the in-car cameras exonerate them more than, you know, hinder them. So I think that we have to, you know, slow down. I don't think there's going to be anything this budget year unless the government comes up with it, because it's an the county colonel said his budget for body worn cameras with the cloud and the redaction is like $3.2 million. So like, you know, it's astronomical.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor, the councilman had his question answered and they just finished up.
Sorry to step out. Any other questions about long-term planning? Any other questions after hearing all that about the budget?
I would like to say one thing. I think the whole budget looks great. The only thing I don't agree with is the pay raises this year because of what's going on and the uncertainty of what's going to be happening. And that's my 2 cents, but I'm only one vote, so thank you.
All right, are there no questions? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, we don't have motions. We're going to have to do it in steps. The first one we have, and that was to move the 92,568 from the general fund or from the long-term planning over to the general fund. The next one that we would do is to approve the budget as submitted based on what I've heard. And that makes that funding available to the general funds available to be used for that. So the motion at this point would be to either approve or deny the budget as submitted. Please don't forget we have members of the Finance Committee out there.
That's correct. And thank you. Anybody from the Finance Committee want to comment on the budget? Okay. No comments. Do we have a motion on the budget to either approve or deny? As submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as submitted.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilwoman Skipsky, seconded by Councilwoman Jensen. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll vote by roll call. First district,
Yes.
second,
Yes.
third,
Yes.
fourth,
Yes.
fifth,
Yes.
sixth.
No.
Mayor, yes. At a vote to 6-1, the budget is approved as submitted.
Mr. Mayor, the next action needed would be to approve using the Newcastle County tax parcel as the base tax for the town of, as a tax documents for the town of Elsmere. Trying to find out what tab is that now.
I think it's number 6, yeah.
Number 6 is good. Right. Tab 3. Yeah, resolution 2004, which is a resolution adopting the property tax assessment records for Newcastle County for the properties located within the town of Elsmere for the municipal purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Persani, seconded by Councilman McEwen. Any discussion? Right. There being none, we'll vote by roll. First district,
Yes.
second,
Yes.
third,
Yes.
fourth,
Yes.
fifth,
Yes.
sixth.
Yes.
Mayor, yes. Resolution 20-04 is approved.
Mr. Mayor, the next action would be the acceptance or denial of resolution 203 or 2003, which sets the tax rate for the coming fiscal year. The tax rate as submitted in this resolution does not include any form of an increase. It's the same as numbers as last year. However, there is a requirement from resolution 1307 that whenever the council is setting a tax rate, they must consider the potential raising of the taxes by COLA for the Philadelphia region. So I think the discussion is, do you want a tax increase based on COLA? Do you want one higher? Do you want one lower? Do you want to just approve this resolution the way it's written?
Do we have a motion? And then I guess we can move from there.
My question is, the way it's written now, there's zero increase, correct?
That is correct. Taxes remain the
I'll
same.
make the motion. Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve the resolution. I think it's what, 20-03?
Yes, sir.
I'll make the motion.
I will second with the clarification that this was the resolution 2003 that was submitted to council today June 11th, not the one that is attached to the agenda.
That is correct, Councilwoman. It is the one that has, let me read this into the record here. The resolution setting the residential property tax rate for the town of Elsmere for the 2020-2021 fiscal year at 8.75 cents per $100 of assessed value plus $447.95 per unit, and setting the commercial property tax rate for the 2020-2021 fiscal year at $1.20 per $100 of assessed value plus 447.95 per unit, and setting the property tax rate for open lots. So that's the ordinance that we're considering now. It is one that was submitted this afternoon.
Okay, that motion was by Councilman Hurst, seconded by Councilwoman Persani. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll vote by roll. First district,
Yes.
second district,
Yes.
third district,
Yes.
fourth,
Yes.
fifth,
Yes.
sixth.
Yes.
Mayor, yes. Resolution 20-03 is approved. And that concludes the new business. Any items council would wish to discuss?
Are you going to go by district or?
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, I get that simplicity. First district,
No, I don't.
second,
I do not.
third,
No.
fourth,
No.
fifth.
Yes. Of course, I have to break the nose to say yes. I just have one thing, and I'm really interested to know what everyone thinks. I'm really concerned about the configuration of the council seating at meetings. Even when we go back, even if we're able to go back, there's still going to be social distancing for quite some time. And as much as I really, truly admire Councilman Hurst and Councilman McEwen, I think they make it sick of me practically on their lap at every meeting. So, I'm wondering if there's any way, without, spending a whole lot of money, to reconfigure that seating so that we're further apart.
I concur.
The answer would be to you is that we would move you down to these white foldable tables for the foreseeable future where you get more distance between us, and then we'll go back once the social distancing requirements are lifted. So in the short term, yes, when you come back, we can do something.
So that question actually came up on the call with the governor this week. Did they have any kind of timeline that they could foresee going back to public meetings? Some places are having council meetings outside, and that is appropriate with distancing. Inside is a different story. We are still limited to 10 people. So presently, we aren't able to hold a meeting until that gets relaxed, and they weren't quite sure when that would be. And even though phase 2 talks about 50 people, the question came up whether or not that was appropriate for council meeting, because you're talking about generally smaller areas. I mean, we're not like fire department halls where you can spread out all over the place. So we'll see. But if they do go back, yeah, everybody can spread out. Anything else, Councilwoman Persani?
No, I'm done for now.
6th District?
I think she was also saying when we do go back to normal, we are sitting on top of each other.
Yeah.
So I think she was asking if it could be configured a little different where everyone has a little more personal space. And that's my 2 cents.
You're talking about
Yeah,
for the long run.
After it's all said and done, yes.
Right. Okay, we can look into that.
because what I was thinking is where there's 2 ramps go up, maybe just have one side a ramp and somehow spread us around more like in a horseshoe. That would help if to keep us up on the platform, but I'm not an engineer, so I guess I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, the interesting question I think becomes whether or not it's practical to do it. If we can't do it, do we just continue on video and not that yet? Because I know there were people on that have smaller areas than what they said they just feasibly cannot fit the people in there at 6 feet apart. So,
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment if I can make it.
sure, go ahead, John.
My first one is to the members of the mayor and council. I thank you, all of you who have reached out to me over the loss of my mother. I appreciate the contact and hearing from all of you. It was very nice. The second one is for the attorney. I saw that he answered Councilwoman Persani's question, I believe it was, about the need for a quorum for the Finance Committee to be here for us to proceed. And I'd like to have him just put that on the record, his response to her. And finally, I think he had a card up like he wanted to say something a minute ago. So we can go to Jim, see what he had to say.
Thanks, Mr. Town Manager. I want to also express my condolences with regard to the loss of your mother. I'm very sorry to hear that. Councilwoman Persani had raised the question about whether or not there needed to be a quorum of the Finance Committee here tonight. While you all were talking and conducting your business, I researched that. As the town manager referenced, I did post on the chat feature that the absence of a quorum of the Finance Committee does not keep you from adopting the budget. So I just wanted to put that in the record as requested. And the reason I was raising my hand before is because, again, Councilwoman Persani had raised the issue of everybody being on top of each other up on the dais when they are in council chambers. I just added a chat in response to that that said, if you guys want me to get you in touch with a vendor, I know a vendor that is manufacturing and installing plexiglass, but obviously it wouldn't have to be installed. It could just be a portable one. And if you all want me to provide information or follow up on that for you, I'd be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, but it is so tight up there that I could just try to imagine what it would be like with this plexiglass. We'd be like this.
We would like to hear.
It's tighter there.
Jim, I would appreciate hearing. I have some offices that I got to prepare to reopen that'll need plexiglass in them. So if you could send me the information on the vendor.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you, there's lots of room up here when I'm the only one up here.
Lonely at the top.
Anything else from council? Just generally prompt anything? Okay. Hearing nothing, any public comment? Anything from the Finance Committee? Nobody, no flag, no questions. Okay. All right, well, before we adjourn, I want to thank everybody for the work they put in on this. Went really smoothly, and I think that's a product of that. Thank you. Hope everybody stays safe as we start coming out of this COVID. Tired of hearing COVID and coronavirus. Getting old. All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Hurst, seconded by Councilwoman Persani. We'll do it by roll call. First district,
Yes.
second,
Yes.
third,
Yes.
fourth,
Yes.
fifth,
Yes.
sixth.
Yes.
Mayor, yes. The meeting is so adjourned. Take care.